The lack of rain can often lead to fire restrictions, putting a damper on camping plans or outdoor activities. The rules are there for a reason, says Brent Robinson with the U.S. Forest Service. He explained how the agency ensures they're being followed on federal lands. Fair to say you have people who enjoy public lands and think of it as, this is my land, so I can do what I want on it. How does that shift during fire season? And I know we're year-round, but especially in the summer when the climate, the environment is such a sensitive position.
Can be difficult because they may not understand. They may think that they are very, very safe with fire, and they don't think that the restrictions should apply to them. However, these restrictions have to apply to everyone across the board. Social media in these days helps, but what's really helped kind of with this re-education and this bringing people back into a compliant nature are, it's the people that live in those communities, in those forested communities. They've seen the devastation that occurs from unmanaged wildfire. And a lot of times, they're pretty supportive to say, we cannot have you out here having these fires. Please don't do it. And when the visitors realize that, hey, okay, maybe I am responsible, but there's just too many people that aren't, that helps to bring them into compliance.
Robinson says people caught violating fire restrictions face steeper penalties, including a mandatory court appearance.
And that means that that person has to come into a federal court and appear before a judge and explain to that judge why the fire restrictions didn't apply to them. And judges are less lenient in those situations.
You said you've been doing this for about 14 years or so. Why do we continue to experience human-caused wildfires?
Well, human-caused wildfires, it's such a large gamut and spectrum. When we say that, we could mean anything from power lines, that are faulty, to people being negligent with smoking or their campfires. We have people in the woods, and that's the reality. When people are interacting in the wooded environment, out in the in nature, anything they do is going to have an impact on that environment. And because this, in the last 20 years, we've doubled the amount of off-road vehicles that are registered in the state of Arizona. We've had a 20% increase in population. So now we have more people out there, and they have the ability to go further into the woods with their recreational vehicles. Gun ownership in Arizona, obviously is one of the higher states for it in percentages. And a lot of our fires are started by shooting. Whether they're shooting an exploding target, like in the Sawmill fire a couple years ago, down around Sahuarita in Green Valley, or whether they're just out recreational shooting. Shooting can cause wildfires.
The Sawmill fire ignited near Green Valley in April 2017. Investigators determined an off-duty Border Patrol agent shot a target rigged to explode with blue or pink smoke for a gender reveal event. Containing the fire and resulting damages totaled more than $8 million.
So when they shot that, they had unfortunately placed that target upon a couple bales of extremely dry hay in grass that was about waist high, dry grass. It was about 90 degrees. It was the middle of the afternoon. The winds were blowing pretty strong from the west. It was the worst time period and the worst place to do that baby gender reveal. And because of that, we had a very large wildfire, 50,000 plus acres that burned across from Green Valley all the way towards Sonoita.
And heavy penalties levied against that individual, correct?
Yeah, that individual was criminally charged in that case. Although it was obvious he didn't mean to cause that wildfire, and he even reported the wildfire himself. But his actions were just so reckless that it had to be charged criminally in that case. And he had hundreds of thousands of dollars of restitution that he owes.
Brent, I think some people are amazed when they find out that the Forest Service can figure out where the fire started, and in some cases, as you said, who started it. Can you share with us a bit about how you go about investigating these wildfires?
What you realize is that a 100,000 acre fire didn't begin at 100,000 acres. It was first reported maybe at 5 acres. And from that 5 acres, maybe we can get it down to 1 acre just by looking at burn patterns, because fire leaves very telltale signs upon the environment, on trees, rocks, even on debris that's left behind. we can follow that trail and bring that fire back generally 100% of the time to an area no bigger than this room in the studio, and most of the time to an area about the size of this desk. Once we get it down to that small of an area, then we can search that area very, very diligently to look for causes. Now, do we find the cause? Not all the time, but in many cases we do. And so we're able to then know the location the fire begins and the cause.
All right, Brent Robinson, a law enforcement officer with the U.S. Forest Service. Thank you.
You're welcome.